Well, the Scottish Premiership is back. We can't wait for the action, the drama, the atmosphere. But the big question is, who will be lifting the Scottish Premiership trophy at the end of the season? Welcome to Celtic Park and welcome to my guest tonight who will preview the season ahead. It is the former Motherwell and Rangers player who was the Kilmarnock manager and formerly the Hearts assistant manager, Lee McCulloch. Lee, you're very welcome. And also a man who won the Scottish Premiership on 5 occasions with Celtic. He played with Aberdeen as well. Hello to Charlie Mulgrew. And Charlie, just firstly, you've left Dundee United today. What can you tell us about that and what does the future hold?
Obviously last year was a disappointing year for everybody at the club, everybody involved in the club, and there had to be changes made, so I came back this year to find out it wasn't the manager's plans, which is fair enough. It's something different for me now. I move on, we got it agreed today, we move on and I figure out what I'm doing next. I'm not sure what the future holds for myself. I'm going to take a couple of days and hopefully let the dust settle and then I can decide what I'm going to do.
OK then, let's look at the opening weekend's fixtures in the Scottish Premiership, and we begin here at Celtic Park for the live match on Sky Sports. It's Celtic against Ross County, a 12:30 kick-off. Elsewhere it's Dundee against Motherwell, Dundee back in the Premiership. Livingston host Aberdeen, St Johnstone play Heart of Midlothian, and another Sky Sports live game. It's Kilmarnock against Rangers, which kicks off at 5:15. On Sunday, Hibernian, who won in Europe last night, they host St Mirren at Easter Road. So Celtic against Ross County, the first game of the new season, and here at Celtic Park, Brendan Rodgers makes his return. And Charlie, you trained briefly at when you were still at Celtic, or you had training facilities here when Brendan came in. What changes do you think he'll make to this Celtic team that the fans certainly enjoyed watching under Ange Postecoglou?
Well, I think a lot of the principles that Brendan will use will be similar to Ange in terms of a high pressing game and attacking football. We saw that the first time. So there's already the players here and the things in place here for Brendan to be successful. I'm sure over the coming weeks we'll see what stamp he puts on the team. I know that he likes to have 2 sitting midfielders at times. He likes to build with a back 3. So all these wee changes will be good to see, and I'm sure that he's had a lot of success at Celtic with the treble, almost the quadruple treble before he left, and I think that can't be understated. I mean, that's an unbelievable achievement and something that the Celtic fans should be excited about, because he's a manager that knows how to get success at this club.
Jota left, but the recruitment continues as well. But you mentioned that core, that continuity. Will the players that have been here already, will they still be the driving force, do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, you've got Cal McGregor as captain. I don't think there's MD better you could really have to captain your club and drive standards from the changing room and onto the pitch. And I think that, I mean, over the last 10-12 years you look at Celtic signings and a lot of the time you don't know a lot about them, but you look at the signings that they make for small amounts of money, or even what's perceived as large amounts of money in Scotland, and they go and sell them on. I mean, they buy Jota for £6 million and then sign him a year later for 25 million. So the business model they've got here with Brendan as manager, the players they've got already here, it looks a bright future for this club.
Lee, tell us about your experience of Brendan Rodgers and what he was like with you when you left Kilmarnock.
I think first of all there was a little bit of negativity with Brendan coming back, and I think, just for me, in my opinion, it's great for the Scottish Premiership. I think it's great for Scottish football as a whole, especially this season with the amount of young managers that we've got in the Premier League. So I think he's wore the t-shirt, he's had success before, and from my experience, yes, I lost my job at Kilmarnock, and he was on the phone to me the next day inviting me in, and showing me how he works, and he's a very articulated manager. What about Ross County then? They're going to come here. It's probably the toughest start any team could get in the Scottish Premiership. They have got some firepower, the likes of Simon Murray. Eamon Brophy's now back fit, he's signed on a permanent deal. Jordan White's still in there. They have Samuel too. Are they a team that can cause a shock tomorrow, or is it a case of that firepower will be put to good use later on in the season to make sure they're not in any danger this time around? I think they'll be looking to make a shock tomorrow, that's for sure. They're not just going to turn up and roll over. I think it's it'll be a very difficult task. If you look at them in the last 2 seasons, they've been top 6 and then fighting for relegation last season, so they'll be under no illusions how difficult it is to come here. But some of the names you've mentioned there, I think Eamon Brophy's the key one for me, and if they can keep him fit this season, I think they'll stay clear of any trouble.
Well, the other Sky Sports live game is down at Kilmarnock at Rugby Park at 5:15, and 2 of your former teams, Lee. For Rangers, they've signed 9 players, the likes of Danilo, Cifuentes in the last couple of days as well. Does that add more expectation to Rangers, where there's already a pressure on Michael Beale to make sure that they are amongst the trophies this season?
I think with a club like Rangers and obviously Celtic, there's expectation, there's pressure. I think the board have been brilliant towards the manager with the backing, with the amount of signings that have been brought in. It's just whether they can hit the ground running. Difficult game tomorrow, difficult pitch to play on. But we'll see. I think the manager's got everything in place there. He's been backed. It's his own team now, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Derek McInnes is getting his own team together as well now. That's 2nd season back in the Scottish Premiership. How important is that for him to make sure he puts his own mark on it now? Because he inherited a team that some of the players were on contracts and they were able to stay up last season, but now this is his team.
Yes, they stayed up last season. That's what Derek said was the goal. So he got there because he had the bulk of the players that got them up from the Championship the season before. They've made a good few signings, a few good ones. I think they've got a bit of experience in there, so it'll be interesting to see how they start the season as well. But he's got a fantastic manager there at the football club. We're
going to get to your predictions later, but in terms of this title race, Charlie, how exciting do you think it can be this season?
Yeah, it can be. We'll see in time how good the Rangers signings are, and I think they really need to turn up this year. And they won't have, probably a lot of them won't have played at a club the size of Rangers, and they'll really feel the pressure, and that takes a bit of getting used to. Lee will tell you, playing for Celtic and Rangers is very unique in the fact that you need to win every single week, and it takes a bit to settle in. Even a boy from Glasgow that grew up supporting Celtic, to settle in and feel that pressure is really difficult. So for foreign players to come in and players that don't know what it's like, it's difficult. So time will tell how that goes. As you said before, Celtic got a lot of players that have been over the distance. They've got a manager that's been over the distance, that's domestically been unbelievable. So I think the pressure's on Rangers to really step up this year and challenge Celtic. But it will hopefully be exciting, but I'd imagine it come down to the Old Firm games and who can come out on top of them.
Well, let's see what happens. Make sure you join us after the break. Plenty more to come from Celtic Park as we preview the beginning of the Scottish Premiership season.
Together, we can change it.
Welcome back to Celtic Park. Let's get around all the teams then and hear from all 12 Scottish Premiership managers.
Just perform and make sure that we can put an Aberdeen team on the pitch that the fans can go with, that they can drag us and help us. Obviously when we're not playing so well, and they'll do that, and that's what our hopes are, to try and perform as well as we can and get the fans on board with us.
Should be the best that we can be, play and continue with the level of football that the supporters want to see, whilst winning. So and then let's see where it takes us.
As a newly promoted team, it's survival in the Premiership. I think that's the most important thing. Of course, we'll set internal objectives, where we want to get to, but that has to be your main aim.
Try and get back into third in the league is probably our biggest aim, to get back into, obviously, straight into the European group stages. Obviously, we're disappointed that obviously Aberdeen get that slot last season, but no credit to them.
Well, we're really hopeful. We are the dreamers at the moment in terms of a lot of new players come to the door. We're excited about what the season can bring. We've learnt a lot from last season and absolutely want to be competitive in all competitions.
Hopes for the season is to try and win a cup and get back to Hampden. And through the league campaign, I think there's a fine line really between being involved at the split at bottom 6 and top 6, and it's important that we demonstrate an ability to win 3-4 more games before the split, which would get us in the mix for things.
We've got to stay in the Scottish Premiership. We've got to aim for 10th, but we'll reevaluate the targets as and when the season's ongoing. So again, we'd love to try and get top 6. If we manage to get top 6, you'll look at European football, but just being pragmatic, realistic, 10's got to be that aim. We've got to keep Livingston Football Club in the Scottish Premiership.
We look to try and push the boundaries, which for me, as a club like Motherwell, I think a top 6 finish and pushing towards above that mid-table point is always an exceptional season. And the other factor in it is we want to develop our own players. I see that as success. If we are able to go and get that opportunity to play some of our academy graduates and some of the guys that become the identity of this football club, then for me I always see that as success.
To go one step further than last year, I think each season you want to better your performance, and last year obviously we were second in the league, runners up and lost in the semi-finals, so we're looking to go one step further this season.
Our hopes are to try and make sure that by the end of the season we're still in this league. Survival is the key to start with at Ross County, as it is for various clubs, and after that kick on and see as much as we can how close we can get to that 6th position.
We want to have a successful season, we want to go and play attractive football, and we want to do well, so I think first and foremost we must stay in the league, but then we want to push on and try and do as well as we can.
To try and build on a really successful season last season, first and foremost stay in the division has to be our first aim, and then our goals have got to try and be getting that top 6 again and become a regular top 6 club.
The first man we saw there was Barry Robson, who is in charge of Aberdeen. And Charlie, he's a former teammate of both of you, but Charlie, your old club Aberdeen, they have that group stage football to look forward to. It might be the Europa League, could be the Conference League, but they've been able to add to their squad. What have you made of a Barry Robson Aberdeen team?
Well, he done brilliantly last year when he took over. I played against him a couple of times and I was really impressed by them. They've got some real top quality players in Duke and in Clarkson. They've managed to hold on to him as well. They've lost McCrory, I know that, but they've also signed Devlin, which is a like-for-like replacement and every bit as good. So you'd imagine they'll be right up there this year.
It'll be interesting to see how they do. You know Barry Robson, do you think he's just progressed the way he's come into that management role?
I think he's done brilliant. Since he came in, I think he's brought a little bit of steeliness back to Aberdeen, a little bit of the nastiness in the football, in a good way, obviously. But I think he's added to the squad, he's added to the backroom team, and Peter Leaven was a great signing, a great coach. But I think they're going to need a little bit of luck maybe this season with regarding European football coming back and playing on a Sunday. But it can be very, very difficult on the players. So if they can stay injury free and suspension free, they might do just as good.
Well, let's look at Aberdeen. They got that win last night against Andorrans Inter de Scaldes in Conference League qualifying. From a Hibs point of view, they have been able to spend some money. They've got players coming in. They had the embarrassment of the first leg, but are Hibs a team that should be pushing for 3rd place this season?
They should be, and I think they're expecting that. I think it's a big club, Hibs. Playing against them, you realise that. The stadium, the expectation for the fans, they want to see good football, they want to see their team pushing up the league. So I think that's what they'll be looking for this year. They've done well getting that result last night. That takes a bit of pressure off the manager. And I think with the signings they've made, and they'll be looking for a good start, looking to win games, and they'll be another team pushing for that 3rd place along with Hearts and Aberdeen.
Luzerne they have in Europe next week. And let's move across the city to Heart of Midlothian. And Lee, you were there recently. You parted company with Hearts in April. What do you make of this new Hearts setup where there's a technical director in Stephen Naismith and Frankie McAvoy's the head coach?
Yes, I think it's really interesting. I think it's interesting who the manager actually is, and we'll see in due time. I think with the European campaign and then the league campaign. But at Hearts, it's a massive club, tremendous dressing room. They've added a couple, and I think without going too far, I think Hearts need to finish 3rd this season.
When you look at that, do the players need to have the clarity, regardless of what they're saying in public, because Frankie McAvoy said to me last week, he makes the decisions, Stephen Naismith's the technical director, but as long as the players have the clarity, is that the key thing?
It's all about you're only as strong as your dressing room, really, and I think that will be the behind the scenes, the important thing for the players to know what person they can go and speak to.
Just from your point of view, after leaving Hearts, is it something that you still feel a bit raw about, or is it one of those ones you put down to experience?
I wish them all the best. I wish them all the best when I left, and I think it's probably the industry that we're in. When you look at managers come and go, there can be a big thing made about it. Players do it as well. So no, I'm quite relaxed and quite happy enjoying my family life.
What about St Johnstone? They had a nightmare of a League Cup group stage campaign. They lost 4-0 to Stirling Albion. They were out. They also lost to Ayr United and Stenhousemuir, lower league opposition. Is there a concern for them and Stephen McLean this early in the season?
A concern because firstly they're not getting bodies in the door. I know they might have signed a couple today, but it seems very rushed and kind of last minute to me. You like to get your players in pre-season, and probably you'll be able to, you say, Jig, you want to get your team in and you want to get your style across to your players as early as you can, and it seems as if they're into the season before they've done that. Last year they had a wee bad spell and they managed to come through it at the end and get themselves up the table a bit, so I fear for them a wee bit this year. It's a difficult job for Stephen McLean when he's not getting to make signings early on, but time will tell.
Well, let's get to the predictions then that you have both made for the Scottish Premiership this season. And Charlie, we'll look at your predictions first and foremost, and we'll see what you have gone for. And no surprise when you see that the team you have selected to win the league is Celtic. There we go. But Rangers, Aberdeen, Hearts, Motherwell, Hibs, Livingston, Kilmarnock, St Mirren, Ross County, Dundee and St Johnstone. We'll move on and we'll look at Lee's predictions before having a debate on that. Let's see what Lee has gone for. And again, no surprise, Rangers you have predicted to win the Scottish Premiership. But interestingly, guys, that you've gone for the same top six, although in a different order, and the same bottom two, and again in a different order. Looking at the bottom then, Lee, why do you think Dundee, newly promoted, will struggle?
I think they've got a tremendous manager and a coach for various amounts of years. I just think with the new influx of players, they might find it a little bit difficult to get used to Scottish football. And I'm with Charlie on the St Johnstone. I think they could struggle if they don't quickly get players in. So that's my two reasons for picking the bottom two.
Well, you've both gone for Motherwell, your former team, Lee, in the top six. But Charlie, they lost Kevin Van Veen. A lot of goals he scored, nearly 30 goals. What gives you the confidence that Stuart Kettlewell will get them up there in that top six?
I think Van Veen was massive for them last year, but I also think their defensive organisation when Stuart Kettlewell came in really impressed me. So I think if you can keep clean sheets with your defensive organisation, then you can pick up goals in this league at set pieces, and hopefully somebody steps up to take that mantle of Van Veen and score goals for them. And I think that will see them through for a good season.
Lee, that fight for third place, you have gone for Hearts, Charlie's gone for Aberdeen. Is that one between the three big city clubs? You've got Hibs there as well. Do you think it will be a good battle, that third place?
It will be a good battle. Hibs, Hearts, Aberdeen, I think the three clubs in a similar vein, but I think with the standards that have been with Hearts for the last in Europe last year, I think anything less than third will be a failure.
Charlie, when you look at the strength of the Scottish Premiership, you do see that there will be teams that might struggle. But is this a league that we should be excited about this season? This is one where there is quality in this league. We need to talk about.
Definitely. I mean, if you just look at the top six, there's some big clubs here. I mean, there's no surprise we both have them in the top six. These clubs in the top 3 or 4, because these clubs, there's expectation, there's demand. The managers, like these clubs, the players will feel the expectation here. I've played at Aberdeen, I know what they fans want. They fans want third place, and anything else kind of feels like a failure. Hearts are the same, Hibs are the same, so very exciting times for the league this year.
Just very briefly, Lee, what's your hopes for the season that we'll see in the Scottish Premiership?
I'm hoping that it's really tight between the big two. Obviously, I've picked Rangers to win the league. It's been a couple of years since they have, so I think with the new fresh faces and the backing of the manager, I think this could be the year.
Charlie, thank you very much. Remember, two games live on Sky Sports tomorrow. We start here at Celtic against Ross County here at Celtic Park, and then later on we're in Ayrshire. It's Kilmarnock against Rangers. We can't wait for the Scottish Premiership season to start. Stay tuned to Sky Sports News.